Welcome into another episode of Cheat Code Weekly, where we discuss video game collecting and investing. I, of course, am Greg here, joined once again by Henry. And this video is going to be more for the people who have been collecting video games for a while now, because it comes into the topic of consolidation of your collection, as well as unlocking the actual value of your collection. In my opinion, far too many people let their stuff just sit there, be it on shelves or whatever, and they don't actually see it as valuable. Because collections are valuable at the end of the day. There's a lot of money there sitting on your shelves, a lot of money there that's tied up. And this video is going to be about how you can kind of use that to seek out what you're actually looking for. Because let's face it, you're collecting, buying up games, you're buying up everything that you see lining the shelves. And then it's like, okay, there's going to be games you actually want to get that are going to cost a lot more than any other game that you might buy. The Grail pieces, the most expensive pieces in your collection, right? You go to Reddit, everyone loves posting, what are your most expensive video games? If you want to actually get something like that, you need to avoid buying all of this other stuff. But the other way to do it is to start selling some of the stuff you actually have. Start consolidating your collection.
Yep. I mean, basically, if you want something like a Chrono Trigger, let's say 968 plus, those are selling for over $20,000. Like most people aren't gonna just shell out 20K. But then when you actually look around in your collection, maybe you have something like, yeah, when in aggregate worth 50K, but then maybe 20 of that 50K is something that you don't actually really want. It's just stuff that you bought over the years that just sitting there, and you're like, do I really want it or not? So I feel like setting goals is really important for deciding what you want to have and what you want to keep. I know a lot of us, when we do have our stuff, we sort of had this endowment effect where we really feel like, oh, this thing's worth more than what people are saying it's worth. But in the end of the day, whatever your games are worth is what the market is going to pay for it that day. So
And
if you
I
want to upgrade,
absolutely, yeah, the
yeah.
endowment effect's huge. And it's like, I often think too, if I were to sell something, right? Because let's say during the pandemic, I sold a couple of black box titles, um, Hogan's Alley and I can't even think of the other ones now. That's how much it meant to me. Kung Fu, and Hogan's
Oh, Kung
Alley,
Fu.
two
Okay.
lower
Yeah.
tier black box titles, absolutely right.
Yeah.
And they both sold for like 30, maybe even $40,000 each, which is crazy. That was back
That's
during
good.
pandemic times during the bubble. But it's very, very easy for me to say I will never buy those games back. I'm not never would I pay $40,000 for either of those titles. Wouldn't happen.
How about at today's prices? Maybe they're like 20K. Would you pay that?
I
Or
still wouldn't. And I think that was
hmm.
one of the biggest deciders for me to be like, okay, I probably should or could sell these off because I guess the way I see it is clearly how much they cost or what they mean to me. There's a dissonance there. These games are way too expensive or way too valuable for what they actually mean to me. Why am I holding on to them? Does that make
And you
sense?
weren't, yeah, and you weren't full set black box collecting either. Obviously, if that was your goal, then you would keep those. But since that wasn't your goal, then you're just
Exactly.
like,
It doesn't
it's
go to
time to
my
move on.
goal. So I had
Yeah.
these super expensive games just because I've been collecting for a super long time. And that's a lot
Yeah.
of the point there is anyone who's been collecting for 5 years, 10 years, you're going to have stuff. Your collection's going to be worth thousands of dollars, period.
Yeah, and honestly, you were selling a lot of like CIBs and loose carts over there, like over the past year, like consolidating that way.
Yep.
And I'm sure when you're going through your stuff, a lot of the stuff you're like, oh, did I even have this? Like you don't even recognize half the things that you're going through. So that's sort of the difference between a collector and a hoarder. As a collector, you can basically name off the top of your head what you have. But when it sort of gets to that hoarder level, you don't even know what you have. And then maybe that's how you want to collect. But for someone that wants to be more targeted, more goal oriented, that's definitely the stuff that you get rid of first.
100%. I think I would never say it. I would never say I'm a hoarder, but it's like I couldn't name what I own, right? At all. Like
Yeah.
I own Atari games still, probably 100 of them, 150. Part of why I've never gotten rid of them is they're worthless. It's hard to sell them. It's just like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's
Are there
and
CIBs or like loose?
loose still. I still have loose Atari hanging out, man.
Yeah.
So an endowment effect, right? It's part of the thought is like, man, selling this for $5. Ah, like, do I want to even? Maybe it does mean more to me than that. But you get to that point where you literally just have this hobby's huge on romanticizing the game room, man. The game
Yeah.
room, thousands of games lining your shelves. It's once you get to that point as someone who's owned, 1,000 plus video games, it's far, far, far more fulfilling and logical, especially from an investing standpoint, to consolidate a lot of that down into actual pieces that you're going to display, not the spine. You're actually going to display the front of the game and having pieces you truly care about.
Yeah, I see that Pokemon Stadium 2 behind you. So I
Yeah,
imagine that's important enough for you to display the whole box instead
yeah,
of
you have
just like
something
the
you actually
spines.
want to display, right? Because before I had a full
Yeah.
set of N64 games. Oh, great, I have a bookshelf full of spines, like thumbs up. It's just not. I would love to see the hobby make more of a shift, I think, to
It,
this idea of having truly what matters.
and I think that's probably another discussion, but is set collecting dead? Because it seems like people are sort of moving away from that too. Obviously, if you're like loose collecting or like even CIB collecting, it's a lot more feasible to do that. But if you're like a condition snob like we are, it just monetarily speaking is not possible, even if you had all the space. But
It goes the same way. You want to get a little Samson? Do you need to own 200 other NES games worth $5 each? It's $1,000 right there.
yeah, exactly. But let's say, okay, let's use an example. Let's say you wanted to own like the best SNES RPG collections, and also beyond that, like it's okay to have a couple gold too, right? Like, yeah, you want an SNES RPG collection, but you also want to own Mario's. So a good way to help you consolidate is anything that's not a SNES RPG and not a Mario is something that's on the chopping block. You can look at it and be like, I don't want to sell this today. That's fine. But everything else, that's like definitely a way for you to decide on what to sell. And also, if you go a little bit deeper into like the graded side, if you want things only above a 9.4 A plus, that sort of helps you like narrow down even more. And then even beyond that, like let's say you have a SNES RPG and a Mario, but it's not a 9.4 A plus. That's also something you could possibly sell, or you could keep as a placeholder for when the time comes when a 9.4 A plus or something higher comes along. Then you're like, okay, I can upgrade now. I'll start selling off some of the stuff to acquire that better piece.
Yeah, placeholders are the one thing I would say. You can hold placeholders. You can either buy them or hold them. It's okay. You don't have to sell it off, even if it doesn't fit your condition goals. Especially if you're doing CIB, you might end up buying multiple CIB copies of the same game over the years and upgrading. I think I've bought like 4 copies of Final Fantasy 3, 5 different copies of Chrono Trigger, because you buy one, maybe you take one map out, you take a manual, you upgrade the cartridge, you sell it off, you do it again. You as a loosened CIB, you're gonna have to continually be doing that process and do it though. Like do that process. With condition and stuff, if your goals are nice condition games, keep cycling that instead of buying. I guess I was going to say, instead of buying the next RPG, oh my God, I got an awful condition Chrono Trigger. Now I need an awful condition Secret of Mana. You might want to actually focus on a single title in that case before you just, because placeholders are tricky. You start buying junk
Yeah.
when you're just looking to fill, like when you're just going down check boxes, you start really, you start bringing in junk, to put it
And,
simple.
and that's why it's important to have a goal because, especially when you're collecting, let's say, SNES RPGs, but then you get like the next shiny thing on eBay. It's like, oh, this seems like a good deal, or like it's not SNES RPG, but it's like a really nice, I don't know,
Can't pass up a good deal,
Ace.
man.
Yeah, like Ace Attorney something, and you spend $50 on it, and you get it. It's like, oh, cool. But if you have a goal, it sort of keeps your mind straight, and then it sort of allows you not to waste money on other things that aren't important enough in
You
the
have to
long
avoid the
run for you.
dopamine hit. You have to avoid the trap because
Exactly.
you're gonna, like, if you haven't bought anything, I'm sure you can agree. If you haven't bought anything in a couple of weeks, you get that itch, man. Like you just wanna strike on something.
Yo, dude, I'm buying up comics now, like video game comics right now, because it's so much cheaper than sealed games. And I know it's like 90s trash, or like the sports
Filling
cards,
your
like
house with
90s
junk.
trash. But it's a cool cover, it's a scratch a little itch. It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah, and it's gonna happen, and that's like why like separating your budget is so big too. Because here, once you start selling stuff, right, you're gonna start getting some money. And one of the biggest reasons I think people don't sell, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think they don't know what to do with the money. Like, okay, oh, I could sell this game for $500, but like then what? I don't need $500. And really
Yeah.
having that goal-oriented consolidation, rolling the money back into your collection, I think that really does help because it's like, hey, I sold it for 500. That 500 will forever exist. Separate your budgets. Do not just put that in your bank, roll it into fast food. Separate out your two budgets and allow that 500 to forever exist for the next time you want to make a hobby-oriented purchase.
Yeah. So let's say, for example, like we saw a 9.6 A plus Chrono Trigger come up in was it the last signature or something?
Yeah,
Sold
yeah, yeah.
for around
November,
like
November.
yeah, sold for around like 23K. Like if you're wanting a gun for those type of Chrono Triggers, I don't know what the pop report is on it exactly, but I think they're like 5 above 9.6 or something.
Oh, nine
So
six getting
maybe
right
the
up there.
next time. Yeah, and maybe the next time when another one comes up, you need at least 20K of like, of gunpowder in order to, sort of make a real run at it. So that's the goal that you can do. You're like, all right, now it's time to start selling because when those grail pieces
You're
start
saying
coming
don't even
up,
sell yet. Sell once you purchase it?
no, I'm saying you should sell now.
Okay, okay.
You should start selling because when it actually comes up, I mean, it could come up on Heritage, it could come up on eBay. If it comes up on eBay, it's like 7 to 10 days. You
You
can't
got 7 to
liquidate that
10.
much over time. You can't liquidate that
Start
much at
fire
that time.
sailing. Just like get it out.
Yeah, I mean, you're just gonna, yeah. So you just got to start, and then you could build up like a war chest of like 10 to 15K, and then maybe the last few, 7 8,000, you can just sort of when it comes up,
That's what
just
I was
use
going to
it,
say.
just
Build up the
sell.
war chest, keep the budget separate there of even half of what you need. Like I want to buy a Mario Bros this year, right? A
Yeah,
9.4A plus is probably going to cost me 10, 15,000. I mean, hopefully
yeah,
the
right.
price doesn't keep moving, but I am going to start selling stuff here. I'll probably cover it more on the YouTube, but I'm going to start selling stuff and just like making a spreadsheet basically, which is like Mario Bros budget. And if I sell a game for 400, like $400 towards the budget, that money is the money will not go anywhere else except for the goal oriented purchase. Because when we
Yeah,
do this stuff with these actual expensive grail pieces, whether your game's 500 or 5,000, usually, unless you have infinite money, you're going to have to plan for this.
yeah, for sure.
And
And I mean, let's say for example, the Mario Bros comes up, the 9.4 A plus. Like, are you gonna set a maximum budget, or are you just gonna sort of let it roll? Like if it comes up,
man,
like is there max? Okay.
I think you got to be strict with it. I think you have to stay extremely strict so that you don't like because when you're chasing your goal, I think it's very easy to get stuck in the spot too, or not stuck, but you might over chase. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, I've been
Okay.
looking for Mario for 6 months now. Like, it's finally up, dude. This is the one I have to buy. And all the comps are saying it should be 15,000, and I chase it all the way to 17, 18. Is that, like, is that really the best thing to do still?
I guess there are only a few instances where a game will probably never come up again, or never come up would be like 5 to 10 years, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
you'd have to
if
wait.
it doesn't come up again
Yeah.
for 5 years, I would accept that answer. Yeah.
Yeah, but for a non for A plus, I mean, they do exist out there. They don't come up regularly, but they come up often enough where you feel comfortable, like, okay, I don't have to overpay. But if it's something like Sculptor's Cut or something, you sort of have to be like, all right, there are only two. You gotta shoot your shot right there.
Yeah, look at the guy who bought that NWC gold, right?
Yeah.
Ryan, he paid 350K, I think. First one we've seen in 10 years.
No, it's a
More than that.
two
Oh
two
no,
oh
sorry,
seven,
200
something
and
like
some,
that.
200 and some.
Yeah, yeah. That was a labelless one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
The
the
labelless
the
one.
private sale was 350K.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And that's the NWC gold fits where you won't have another chance. And the way he explained it was more buy now, and then I think he literally started rushing to sell stuff by what it sounded like.
yeah, he probably didn't start consolidating quick enough,
Yes.
but clearly he had enough ammo to like go for it. He has crazy stuff, but Yeah, for most people, you should plan for it in advance. I mean, he also has a video game store, so he has his ways to sell
Yeah, at
stuff.
the
But
ultra high end, he has enough stuff that he can quickly move, but it still falls on the exact same merit there of consolidation. Even on the ultra high end, NWC Gold was 200K. He probably sold off a bunch of $10,000-$20,000 items. Even at that
yep,
level, people are doing the same thing here of unlocking the value of your collection, utilizing your collection to buy bigger pieces.
it's okay to be a collector and sell your stuff. Don't let the Reddit guys be like, oh, you got to hold everything to your
Exactly.
grave and coffin. Like you have to keep the money liquid.
Yep, keep the money flowing. Your collection can be living. Have a living collection. You're not curating a museum. I know that's the dream, the goal. It's not a museum. Use your collection.
And your goals can change too. They don't have to remain static forever. Maybe you don't want the SNES RPG set after all. Then you want to pivot. It's okay to get rid of them. It's okay. No problem.
Even though the internet will hate you for it. Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
okay.
like, oh, you're not a real collector. But speaking about real collectors, Medium Dog is a real collector and he wants Chrono Trigger. So let's talk about Chrono Trigger for buy sell hold.
Yes, buy, sell, hold, Chrono Trigger. Start us off here. What are we looking at?
Yeah, 31 total pop on the WATA pop report. So five, like I said, five is graded 9.6 or higher. It's around that 20%. So anything above 9.6 is probably a pretty good hold, pretty
At
good buy.
31 total, would you even like pull the top 20% anymore? I know we've been big on that, but like I think this is the lowest pop game we've talked about yet.
It is. And I still would. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, for a long-term hold, yes. For a long-term hold, yes. I mean, there's also stuff on VGA. I didn't look at the VGA pop report,
There
but
aren't
there
many. Chrono
definitely
Trigger just isn't.
there are many. I mean, no, there's a VJ 95. That's a sick copy. But but yeah, I mean, the bigger question is, do people even know what Chrono Trigger is? Like kids nowadays, do they know what Chrono Trigger is, or is it just something passed along grapevine by people who actually played it and they know about the name, but they've never actually played it themselves? Like, how relevant will this IP be?
Yeah, because when we're talking about getting into it, you need a 5, 10, 15 year runway here. Um, Even myself, man, I was born 93. I miss Chrono Trigger completely. I do own a CIB copy right now because it's Chrono Trigger. You gotta own it. But as far as relevance in my life and how much does Chrono Trigger matter? Is it my chase? Is it my grail? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. My younger brothers, they were born in the year 2000. They also obviously collectors, retro gamers and stuff. They know about Chrono Trigger. I think they've played it. I think. I don't know how highly they hold it in regard at this point. Amazing for what it was at the time, but not amazing in 2025.
Yeah, and is it a game that people remember 20 years down the line? I'm sure the people who played it will, but how, like, you always need new collectors to come in and also want it. Like, is it up to that Honus Wagner Mickey Mantle level, or is it just like a really really good game for its
Yeah,
time,
a
but it
timepiece.
sort
A
of loses
timepiece.
its relevance over
Yep.
time? Yeah, so I mean, if I were to, I would buy it if you have like 10. I think it's safe for 10 and 15 years, but beyond that, when people start leaving the hobby around like their 50s or 60s or whatever, I don't know how much relevance it'll have.
Do you own a copy of Chrono?
I don't know.
No, I don't either. The last CGC 96A plus, you made a little mention to it there. 23,750. That was a few months ago. The 9.4A plus 22,000 in September 2024. Oh man, right now it is genuinely one of the most expensive video games. Like
It
there
is.
aren't many games that climb into that $20,000 range, and that's not even 9.8 A plus plus or anything. This is like 9.6, 9.4 over 20K. I I think if I had one, oh man, I don't know if I would
You
even
would sell
afford
it.
it.
You would sell it. You would
I
sell it,
think
and you would
let's
roll
say
that
if I
money
found
into
one
something
cheap
else.
today, there'd be zero hesitation. I would get rid of it. The only thing
Yeah.
I'm thinking of here is endowment effect, where if I had it, would I still be able to get rid of it? It doesn't fit my goals. I think I would have to, man.
I think it's I think the last two sales are really short. They basically sold 3 months apart, right? The 9.4 and the 9.6, and they're all over 20K. Usually when you come out with these games, like they sell for 50% less. But somehow Chrono Trigger, it sort of keeps up with the that's the market price,
I
right?
think it's just so damn rare, factory sealed.
Yeah.
It
And the
holds up.
people who want it, they just want it.
Yeah, I mean,
The
what, you get
question
like 2 or 3
is,
times a year, right? To get one, give or take.
but the question is, will the next one, will there be another buyer for it? Or does everyone already have it? So that's potentially a question. I don't know.
That's why I think I have to get rid of it, because that scares me. Like when you put it that way, that scares me. So if I was holding it right now, it's like, hey, 22, 24. It might strike in February, July this year, try to collect my 20 some and not even think about that. Just put it into something a little bit more, a Mario Bros. Say, right? I still don't have one of those.
Yeah. I would personally just hold it if you had a really nice copy, or like if it was like a 9.2 or something. I'd probably just sell into
So
stream.
9496, you thinking, I mean, 5 to 10 years, you double on it?
Yeah, probably double, I would say. Yeah. I think that's
Hopefully.
fair. I don't see it going to 100K for that grade. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
I probably hold it. I think it's a good hold. It's a strong
So neither
IP.
of us are
The
seeking to
people,
buy it right now. Hey, like 20.
yeah, I wouldn't buy it at this price. No, I wouldn't buy it at this price.
I can't really recommend it. I think I even talked to someone about either the WATA copy or the CGC one. And I was hoping for lower, because it was,
you wanted, like, because you wanted to buy it. Why
no,
were you
no,
hoping
sorry.
for
I was
lower?
like recommending, like if you're gonna chase after this, hopefully you can
Oh,
get it for
okay.
like 18 to 20. I'm pretty sure, because it was,
I see. I see. I
based on
see.
comps and stuff. I can't remember
Yeah.
if they chased it all the way to 24. Speaking about chasing for the goals, right? If I'm thinking it's 18 to 20, is it worth chasing to 24? I don't know. It's if it fits your goals, maybe. Maybe the next one will be more, maybe it'll be less. Chrono Trigger is an interesting one, man. Really interesting.
Hey, it's a grail. So
It is. But that'll do it for this week. Cheat Code Weekly. Tune in next week, you guys. Make sure to leave your comments down below, too. We went over a lot of stuff here, so definitely let us know you agree, you disagree. Is Chrono Trigger the grail that we all think it is? Let us know down below, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.